Adam Wharton is departing the Championship and making his way to the Premier League for the very first time. He's set to cost Crystal Palace over £20 million, but honestly, I think that is one hell of a bargain. Now, I'm going to be honest, I know that sounds absolutely absurd. I mean, over £20 million for someone who's played 51 games for Blackburn Rovers and is just 19 years old is honestly absurd. But in today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly why he's worth every single penny and beyond of this transfer, and why one day Adam Wharton will be England's next big thing. When I look at the England squad and the England setup as a whole, the only thing that I really think is missing is that sort of first phase, tight space master. Someone that can break the press with their ability to receive the ball on the half turn, play almost always when they're faced with teams pressing them high up the pitch, and also obviously split pressing lines. And that summary right there is basically just Adam Wharton spelled differently. I see no reason why in the next couple of seasons or so we will not see Adam Wharton helping out Declan Rice in the England midfield. It just makes so much sense. And anyways, I'm going to tell you exactly why. If we look at Wharton's on-ball characteristics, he is honestly unbelievable. Wharton is a player who, as I mentioned before, allows for a side to almost effortlessly break out from a heavy press, because not only is he an incredibly press-resistant player due to his natural strength and great football IQ, but also because of how often he wants to play the ball forwards. This season, he's been averaging 6.41 progressive passes per 90, sitting in the top 14.5% of Championship defensive midfielders for successful dribbles, and has created 35 chances from that defensive midfield position this season. So when you combine these statistics of a player playing in a side that are fairly low down the Championship currently, probably underperforming to be fair, and then you also look at his heat map, which is basically entirely red between his own box and the opposition's, you start to get a real sort of opinion forming already about what type of player Adam Wharton is and just how good he is. From closely watching Wharton throughout the course of this season, obviously only for research purposes, being a Burnley fan and all, I really do think he's almost a level above every single, or at least a majority of Championship midfielders in terms of press resistance and breaking them pressing lines, whether it be through his passing or carrying the ball. And this sort of press resistance that I've talked so much about so far already in this video is really supported by the fact he can go pretty much either way, whether it be on that left side where he turns out or on the right side. He's very comfortable on either side of his body, which makes him so dynamic and unpredictable when being pressed or just when playing football in general. He's so difficult to read in terms of what he's going to do because he can do so many different things. He really is a unique player, specifically for just 19 years of age. And on the back of that sentiment right there, I really think it is unfair if we just look at Wharton as purely playing as a number 6 in almost a double pivot, because I really think he has the ability to be so much more than that. I honestly think Adam Wharton could be a brilliant asset in a 3-man midfield as almost a free roaming number 8, which is obviously the other possibility for a setup that Crystal Palace could use once he's arrived and settled. The English midfielder has very high levels of quality on both ends of the field. In an attacking sense, he has 5 goal contributions this season, and we obviously briefly mentioned before, he's creating a very high volume of chances considering his position this season. Then in the defensive third or first phase in terms of possession, he does strive, as we mentioned before. He's certainly excellent in possession, and although he probably does need to work on himself in terms of what he does out of possession, he still puts up very solid defensive numbers. Although he's only won 60% of the tackles he's attempted this season, he still sits in the top 6.8% of Championship defensive midfielders for successful tackles won. He also sits in some of the highest percentiles for recoveries, interceptions, blocks and possessions won in the final third. So realistically, he ticks pretty much every box that you would want for a complete midfielder playing in that advanced number 8 role. You know, someone that can just do a little bit of everything. And I think that's something where we're eventually going to see Wharton kind of fully develop into being. It's number 8 that does a little bit of everything. He has this sort of arrogance and drive about his game, which for me is what really helps him going forward. You know, he has that kind of want to get on the ball and play going forward, as I mentioned before, but he also has that you know, that arrogance that really allows him to just get stuck in tackles. He wants to win the ball, he wants to get the ball for his side, and again, he wants to go forward with it. As I mentioned before, England really do lack that sort of specialist in tight spaces and someone that can break the lines pretty well. And I also mentioned earlier that I think Adam Wharton is pretty much perfect for this role. So now I'm going to tell you exactly why he's a perfect fit for England, other than the fact that he is English. Gareth Southgate currently has one of the best national sides in football, whether it be his relatively stacked back line, incredible goal scorers up top, or some of the best midfielders in Europe in Declan Rice, Phil Foden, and many more. Yet I feel having Declan Rice so deep is almost a waste of his true potential. Although there's been a few comparisons from some very respectable sources stating that they think that Adam Wharton is basically the next coming of Declan Rice, I think in terms of England, these two will have to play very different roles in order to get the best from one another. I really think that we should be having Wharton as the deeper player, whether it be in a double pivot or in a three-man midfield, and obviously allowing players like Phil Foden and Declan Rice to kind of play in them advanced number 8 roles. Allow Declan Rice to do whatever he wants to do. Just be Declan Rice like he does for Arsenal, have a little bit of free reign, but obviously always contributing in both ends of the pitch. And then you obviously have that loose number 8 to do a little bit of everything as well, whether it be Phil Foden, James Maddison, any of the very talented, almost number 10/number 8 that Southgate has at his disposal, with eventually coming through this academy, coming through into the big time. Adam Wharton as that number 6, whether it be in a double pivot or a three-man midfield, I think makes so much sense. And obviously, Southgate probably won't actually be the manager by the time Wharton comes through. It's going to be another 2, 3, maybe 4 years before we see Wharton on the big stage. But I really think him and Declan Rice is something that we're 100% going to see doing so well on the international stage. After making the jump up to the Premier League for a sizable fee from an 18th place championship side, it'll be pretty interesting to see how Adam Wharton develops over the next few seasons, whether he goes straight into the Palace side or if we see him in a couple years time really take his mark on the Premier League, and it takes a little bit of time with that. However, nevertheless, I'm going to be very interested in see what he does and see how he develops, and I think you all should be too. If you have enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.